Welcome to Successfully Depressed, and I'm your host, Carrie Finsand. It's time to learn about how to navigate mental and physical health in life and business. Today, I want to welcome to the show my friend, Danny Decker, the co-founder of the SFX Athletes App. And I want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you, man. Happy to be here.
I first want to say we've known each other for, I don't know, a good 15 years, something like that.
That seems crazy that it's been 15 years, but that's probably right. Yeah.
And back in the day, I was working for City Search, selling online advertising. For people that don't know what that is, that's like what Yelp is today. City Search is pre that. Dating myself here. And yeah, we kind of met through, I think, some mutual people, and it's kind of, we're both out there kind of hustling. And you were kind of starting out, I think, Harlow Interactive at the time, or is it Media? I forgot what you started off as.
It was Harlow Media, but then we changed it to Interactive because we realized that we weren't really doing all the other media types. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess what we realized was we were really only good at a couple things. One mainly, which was digital, and so when we were kind of looking at ourselves at I think it was year 6 or 7, we decided that it would be best to go with Harlow Interactive. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a little story about how you kind of, where your background, how you got into, business, and where you went to school, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, my background's pretty, it's definitely different, but I was the kid in middle school that would sit and trace letters with a ruler during recess, and I never knew why I was doing that. I was really into just letters, and then I would find myself just, doodling and doing those kind of things. And I think by the time I was in high school, I realized that I was a creative mind, as a creative type, more non-linear versus linear. So I decided that before I even moved on into college that I wanted to be a designer, and then I wanted to maybe potentially someday own an agency. My godfather, who was kind of like a father figure / mentor. He owned a design agency here in Portland for 30 years. And he was very successful. So I got to learn a lot from him. I kind of grew up running around in his office, saw a lot of the logo work that he did, a lot of the design work that he did. And then, everything that he taught me about just the process for design, I was using as I went into college at the University of Oregon after doing a couple of years at community college. The thing about that was once I was in that school, the journalism program and the design at U of O, I realized all the stuff they were teaching me, I had already learned, which was, I guess, was nice. But, I kind of took a long path with college. I took a couple of years off in between. Ultimately realized that I wanted to be back in Portland. So I finished up at Portland State.
Go Vikings.
Yeah, go Vikings. And, it's funny, as I finished as an English major, I wasn't even a design major. And the reason for that was the journalism program at Portland State was in the business school. And in order for me to be a journalism major at Portland State, I would have had to start over in the business program. And so I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm like 2/3 done. So they're like, well, you can be an English major. I was like, sure. And a lot of people were asking oh, when you graduate, are you going to go be a teacher or study English? I'm like, no, I'm going to start an agency. They're like, what? And that's exactly what I did. About a year and a half after graduating, I decided to fire up my agency, and I did it in the background. In the basement of Dale's house, and right next to the washer and dryer. And it was challenging. It took a lot of hard work. I think I was doing anywhere from 10 to 15 hours a day. I was also holding a restaurant job down at that time during the night. So, I'd work all day, do the restaurant job at night, come home, it'd be midnight. And then I'd sit on the computer for another hour to teach myself the software. And back then there wasn't a lot of YouTube tutorials. Everything that you needed to learn was in text. I was in books. So if I wanted to learn about Illustrator or Photoshop, I had to do it just reading, kind of just step-by-step processes in books.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays it's a lot easier. I mean, for me, like I've dabbled a little bit around with Illustrator, and that seems like to be I think that's the hardest of the Adobe softwares. It's, at least in my opinion. I am a complete novice, but I felt like InDesign and Photoshop made a little more sense to me, but overall, they don't still make a lot of sense to me.
Well, they're tools, and it's good to have the right tools to do the job. And if you have the right tools, it makes the job easier. I think that can be said in any industry or anything. So, learning those tools though took some time because of just the nature of them and the multi pieces that go with learning Photoshop or learning Illustrator. And I mean, people who really know Photoshop will tell you you can never really learn it because it has endless possibilities, and it's a pretty amazing piece of software.
That's for me, kind of, there's a piece of software that's great for non-designers called Canva, and that's something that I use all the time. And it's for lots of templates and things like that. But it's starting to get more advanced. It's nothing like the Adobe products, but it makes design fun for us people that don't quite fully understand all the different principles and everything. But I've always liked design myself, and both my parents are artists and my wife's an artist, so I am different in that perspective. I can't draw. My handwriting's probably at the same level as maybe kindergarten right now. I don't know. It's pretty bad. I'm just typing everything nowadays. So I really have respect for design, especially when it's clean and simple. And I know over the years, you've done a lot of clean, simple designs. And what I've seen, I think I've been to either all or most of your different studio locations you had around the Portland area. And I remember back in the day when you were was it the Ford building on Division? And back in the day, there wasn't anything in that area. Now it's just a booming area there in lower Southeast Portland and everything. But I remember just going to your office and, seeing your vision and everything. And there's even talks for us, maybe to work together on some stuff. And I wasn't really at the point where I wanted to work for a startup. But then I saw you guys just make it happen. And I was like, this is pretty sweet. So I really admired that about you.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, it's all hustle. I started, like I said, I started in the basement. I had gone the summer before I started Harlow. I had driven all the way up to Seward, Alaska, and I worked in 2 restaurants night and day. Again, doing like 12, 14 hours shifts and serving hot food to tourists coming off the cruise ships. And in like a 10-week period, I saved up close to about $15,000. I was living pretty lean up there, and all I did was work and just stack chips. And that money was what I used to fund the start of Harlow. Obviously, I didn't know that in the first year that money would get absorbed pretty quickly, and it did, because I wasn't accounting for everything else that it needed to be paid for outside of the business, like just rent, living. But it was my first kind of jump into self-employment, and I think that first year I made $12,000. It was pretty rough. I was hungry. I know my first job was a $1,000 logo, and to this day, it's the worst logo I've ever made. But I started networking, and I would work all day, and then on the nights I wasn't working in the restaurant, I would go out and I would shake hands. I would give my business card out. I would try to get people to use my services, whether that was a logo, a brochure, a trifold, a website, whatever it was. And I just kept at it. And in time, as I started building that network, I started getting, more and more work. And I think that my work also obviously the work helped, right? Doing good work, being personable, communicating well with people. I think one of the biggest things is just being reliable. When people are reaching out to you, getting back to them in a good, time manner. And then also just listening. And if somebody wasn't happy, not arguing with them about, why, well, this is what you wanted, but saying, okay, let's talk about how do we fix this? What's a good solution? Okay, I'll draft up a couple more logos, or, we'll go find some different photos, whatever it was. But just making sure that everybody I did work for left with a smile and they were happy with what they were receiving.
So how long did you have your business before you started adding employees or partners into it?
I was I was actually almost at the end of my second year when a good friend of mine who I grew up with, McKean Banzer, who was a marketing major at Syracuse, had come back from the Peace Corps from Morocco and said, "Hey, I want to jump on and do this thing with you." I said, "Awesome." So I was like, the one thing that we need is sales. We need activity. We need to go out and we need to land work. We're project based, so whatever we go out and kill, catch, we can cook up. And so that was McKean's main function. The other piece was marketing, and then he also did a lot of the just the day-to-day bookkeeping. And when McKean came on board, he also thought maybe we should bring on another good friend of ours, Cody Galloway. And Cody, at the time, Cody was a bartender at Mingo Restaurant, and he had been there for a while. So we just asked Cody, like, "Hey, do you want to join it? Jump in this and join the team?" And he's like, "Yeah, let's do this." And so that third year, we like tripled, mainly because those guys were out, networking, shaking hands, bringing in business, and then I would help sell that work with them, and then I would execute that work. And we just did that for a while, and we grew the company.
What I love about it, so all this is that all these people you're talking about, I've definitely known for a number of years, and it's and some of them I met through you, and some of them I met on my own. And I think why you and I have connected over the years is just because we both kind of like to hustle and try to figure out how to make things happen, and we're not scared of failing and stuff. I mean, we're resilient people. We fail and then we get back up eventually, and so I think that's, and just your different friends like McKean, now has Migration Brewing. It's been around for 10 years now. And so it's cool to see these people blossom, or you had this passion, you had this thing that you thought you could bring in the world, and you did, and then you grew it, and you found your friends to help you. And it's really hard with starting a business in two things. One, when you're a solopreneur, and that's what a lot about this podcast is about, is like how to help solopreneurs in business and marketing, everything. And then also the mental health and the physical health aspects. So you're kind of a well-rounded person, so you don't get burned out like I definitely have been. I'm sure you probably have been at some point.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I get burned out. But what I try to do is I try not to use that phrase, because the minute I start labeling it is the moment I start feeling it. And so that's something good that I do, and kind of tricking myself a little bit. But I think having balance in your work life, your family life, your whatever aspect of your life you have going on, I think having balance is key. And so I think it's pretty easy to work a lot when you're really passionate about something you love. I think that's the other key is I don't get burned out that much because I really love what I do. I believe in what I do. I love what I do. And the success of Harlow and the work and, everything that's come with it is a result of that passion. And I always tell people, I'm like, I'll get people that come to me and they're like, what should I do? I'm like, well, you need to do something you love. What is something that you can't live without? What's your dream job? If you could do one thing, what would that be? And whatever that is, you need to go do that. And eventually the income and the money will come if you really love it and you really believe in it. But I think that's one big aspect to it.
Yeah, there's no question about that, and one thing, we both are like basketball a lot. I know we played together at 24 Hour Fitness back in the day, and I don't really play anymore just because of some injuries and stuff. But I wanted to kind of get into your most recent business that you're involved in. I know you have your hands in many different things, but
yeah,
I know in the last few years you started up an app called SFX Athletes. And I want to know a little bit more about that and how that came to be.
Sure. Yeah. Happy to. So I do have my hands in a couple things, but SFX was created with co-founder Sam Johnson. And I met Sam about 4 years ago. I had been sent to him through another friend who said, "Hey, this guy Sam, he needs some design work. Could you help him out?" I was like, "Absolutely." And the moment I met Sam, I knew he meant business. He was very direct. He was very serious. He knew what he wanted, and so he had me do like a design for a meal plan that he was giving to people that were training in his gym at the time, called StrengthFarm, over in Southeast Portland. And you know, it was funny. Like in our second meeting, he's like, "Do you work out?" I'm like, "Yeah, I go to 24 Hour Fitness about 3-4 days a week." And he's like, "Do you want to train here?" And I was like, "Sure." And I thought he'd be like, "Okay, well, I'll see you sometime." And he's like, "Okay, we'll sign you up right now." I was like, "Okay."
Oh, direct.
You're right. And so, I started training there, and we would do these kind of multidisciplinary workouts. It was strength, it was conditioning, it was mobility, it was speed, and in every day it was different. So it wasn't repetitious. The combinations of workouts were different, and I found that like all the training I had done up to that point really wasn't focusing on the body as a whole. I don't know, like if you experienced this, but in high school, I played a lot of sport, and the weight coach would teach us, okay, we're going to do one muscle a day, biceps, back, or, shoulders or legs. And so I was using that same basic system that I learned back in high school, which, is pretty old and rudimentary. Training with Sam and, adopting the system that he had created allowed me to grow. I think the most important piece is just like the core, but also all of the body, right? So it was crazy because like at the time I was playing basketball at 24 Hour Fitness with a lot of younger kids. I was 35, and after doing this training with Sam, I would go in there and run full court basketball and not even be winded. I found myself moving faster, quicker, and I was never gassed. Whereas before, I was always just like, huffing and puffing for air, and not moving as quick as I could. But the training I did with Sam, hands down, is the best training I've ever done. And so Sam asked me if I wanted to partner with him. I'm building an app that would take this multidisciplinary system that he had created and offering it to athletes, and then to really just anybody who wanted to get stronger, fitter, and more explosive. And so we came together to form SFX Athletes, which recently we changed the name to SFX StrengthFarm Training, because we found that more people knew StrengthFarm than they did SFX Athletes. So yeah, that's how it was formed, and we launched about a year ago.
So how long did you know him before you actually, I guess, got into business with him?
I think we were in year 3, knowing each other. Yeah, we're somewhere in the middle of year 3, maybe year 2. And I mean, listen, like Sam's one of those guys that like he's driven, he's hardworking, he's brutally honest. He believes in what he's doing, and he has a passion for it like no other. And he demonstrated that. Like he didn't just talk the talk, he walked the walk. The guy is his training, the training he does for himself is equal to the training that he gives to everyone else. And so, that kind of work ethic and that mindset, it rubs off on you. And for me, it was like, yeah, this dude it would be a no-brainer to partner with him and do this app and get it out to athletes across the globe. I think the biggest thing about it, man, is like so many kids are using that same system that we used in high school. And here's a system that is multidisciplinary, that trains the entire body, builds explosiveness and helps reduce injury. And so, the athletes that he's trained, both high school, college, and pro still use the system and are seeing the rewards from it, which is pretty awesome.
I know for me, I always like to do heavy weightlifting, and being, a smaller guy, always like, I felt good to put up a lot of weight for your size and on a bench press. But it's like, in the day, who really cares? Doesn't matter. I'd rather be more flexible and more, overall physically fit. But I've always done yoga on and off, so I've had some of that. But I think for me, it probably was about, maybe when I really started thinking about mobility stuff is probably about 6 years ago. And I started taking some different mobility classes and then started kind of incorporating those into what I'm doing. And now I tell everyone about it, and tell my parents, and just, cause when you get older and stuff like that, I mean, like hip mobility, you remember those old commercials, I fall and I can't get up. It's, people are weak in their hips and the other places, and their core is so important. And I personally fight with, back issues. A lot of it is just because I've probably been doing things wrong for so many years that you have to retrain your body. And it's so hard. So I think having something like this where you can combine this mobility, this kind of full workout routine. I think it was 4 days. Is it 4 days a week, the program?
Yeah. So how the app works is, the first thing it does is it tests your current physical strength and ability. So, and how it does that is 2 basic tests. One is plank hold, hands down. And so the time, that you can hold a plank. And then the second is a broad jump. So standing in place and then jumping forward. And so based off of that time for the plank and the length in which you've jumped, you enter in that data through the app, and it will give you a score. And so that score will determine what type of programming, personalized programming, that you'll receive. The programming is 4 days a week. And every 4 weeks, you retest. You retest to see if your plank hold is longer and if your broad jump is, farther. And if you do see the gains in those areas, you'll move up. And the highest you can get is to a 5-star. And so 5-star training, it has a lot of routine in it that is designed to just make you stronger, fitter, more explosive, right, more flexible, and just overall well-rounded in your physical conditioning.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to try it out, and I definitely had to do some modifications on it just from some injuries that I have. But I thought it was really nicely laid out. I like how it's very simple and clean. It's nice. There's explainer videos on how things work, and then that there's also a library of exercises to look at as well.
Yeah.
Because I know, especially, you watch something one time you've never done before. Even if you've done it before, it's just been a while. It might take you a few times to kind of look at this and how am I doing this right? And, make sure you get the right form. And so I think that's really helpful. And I know personally myself, I've tried a number of different apps, fitness apps. I've tried the Apple Fitness one. It was okay. I've tried just a ton of different ones. The Knees Over Toes guy, he's great. His app's pretty good, but it's kind of more of a specific training program philosophy. And then the Peloton app, I've had pretty good success for that. I used that for a while. And so there's definitely a fair amount of apps out there. But I think what's nice about this is just kind of simplifying things to like 2 tests. What's the jumping test?
The plank hold and the broad jump.
Broad jump, yeah. So like that makes it, I think, easier people to understand, instead of having to do a million different tests or which overcomplicates it.
Yeah, or some apps where you don't get tested at all, and they just start giving you, right? Oh, lift, start benching X amount of weight. Well, how does it know that? Like, I think a lot of people who are training, they make a mistake in thinking that they have to lift heavy in order to get stronger. And in time, you can work up to that, but it really starts with just overall strength and conditioning. And the focus too is really on the core as well, right? The stronger your core, the better, you are physically as an athlete. And I think it helps reduce injuries, like some of these things when you mentioned back and things like that. If your core is strong and your overall strength is there, and you're doing the right style of conditioning that is based on your physical ability, then you're going to see results. And it just takes time. You got to be committed. I think that's the one thing that we see with the training and people that are using the app is You get these types that are very committed to it, and they're seeing the results of it. And then you get other people that, they're not fully committed. They're doing 1 day a week or 2 days a week. For one reason or another, they're just, they're not committed to it. And so they're not going to get the results that they want.
I think one thing we all have to realize too is that like we often don't think of ourselves as athletes. And yeah, when you think of athletes, you think of these, professional people that are unreal specimens and just great shape. But we should compete sometimes with ourselves, and these are our abilities. And why can't you do athletic things just because you're not competing in a league anymore? You're competing just to live healthy and feel good, and I think that's one thing that I've thought about that more the last few years myself and stuff, and just like change how I exercise. And sometimes I fall back to, I want to try doing a bunch of pull-ups again or bench press, and I'm like, nope, that was a dumb idea. So why did I do that? My shoulders and that's pointless. You're gonna try to hit a certain number of weight, and then you're just gonna injure yourself, and then you're just gonna be mad, and then would I go down that circle of like, oh, now I can't do anything because my shoulders bother me, So
right.
I think we have to kind of come back to balance. Like, what can we do? What can we enjoy? Maybe it's just walking every day, whatever.
Yeah, it's different for everybody. But what you were just saying there, I want to touch on that real quick. Like, there's an athlete in all of us.
Yeah.
I think, we assume that the word athlete means you're this pro specimen, and that's not the case. Like, we're all athletic if we choose to be. And I think it's finding that within you, and you're not competing against anyone other than yourself. Yep. And I think for me, the training, I think you got to have you got to find a purpose. Like, why are you training? And then once you find out what your why is, I think then you have to figure out, okay, how am I going to train, and what am I going to use to train? And so, I think that's where an app like SFX comes into play. Is like, it helps you in the how, and it helps you have training that is specified to your ability. And it doesn't, I guess the best way to put this is, you don't have to think about it, right? Like, you open up the app, your workout is ready for you. And if you do it, you're going to feel great when you're done, and you get some time to rest. And then tomorrow, the next day, you open up the app, and there's a new program waiting for you to get going. And that's what I think I love about it most. And you mentioned simplicity. That's something that we really tried to focus on when we created this beta version of the app. Keep it simple, and make it effective so people can get the best workout. And so I feel like we've done that, but there's a lot of new things and features that we're going to be building here in the next, 6 to 12 months that I'm also excited about.
Yeah. Just like anything, you'll keep, developing and adding new features. I know when I had my startup Tap Lister, and we were in a tech incubator, and they taught us about the MVP, the minimum viable product. And you kind of had that failure to launch syndrome where, oh, this isn't good enough, but you got to get out the door. If you never get out the door, then how are you going to know if people are going to like it and improve upon it?
Yeah. And your users should tell you that.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Like, you think, like what it should be and how it should be. And I think a lot of good, startups and entrepreneurs or people that are doing this type of business, they do know a lot, right? But at the end of the day, your users are going to tell you where you need to improve and how you need to change the app to better suit their needs. I feel like so far we've done that. And we had a lot of data going into it. Sam had trained thousands of athletes, right? So he built a system based off of trial and error over years of training. And then I myself, right, before designing and developing this app, I had done over 300 digital projects. Right? That's a lot.
Well, and you did the program. The thing about you too is you actually did the program for a while, so you could actually understand how to bring that to life versus someone just saying, "Here, Correct. Let's make this app for us," and not fully understanding the program. So I think between that and then the fact that you've done it, so that shows that it's just something that I can do. Or you also have, if you want to look up to people, I know there's some NFL players that have worked with Sam before. So he's had that kind of gamut of different people. So I think that's a nice point to get across where, yeah, he's trained everything from, average Joes like you and I to like professional
Right.
athletes. And he's come up with a system that he thinks makes the most sense, and all the things he developed, and dividing, the power, the explosiveness, and the mobility, and just what your body needs to move, whether you just want to, play your kids, you just want to play with your friends, or
Yeah, totally,
maybe you want to do a sport. Because especially nowadays, more kids are, gaming and things like that. So anything you can make things easier to get them excited about it, I think that's, always a good thing.
Oh, absolutely, man. We got to get kids off the couch, like 100%. Like, and adults.
Yeah.
Now,
so go ahead.
No, sorry.
How much does this app cost? How do people get it? How does it work exactly?
So the app is, if you subscribe, signing up, the first 30 days are free. So it's
nice.
A free trial. And 30 days is good. I mean, you're going to get a good understanding of how it works and how it works for you, especially if you're doing the 4 days a week. After that, you can, subscribe for $9.99 a month, $9.99 per month, or you can subscribe annually for $99.99
nice.
a year.
So you
right?
save a little bit of money, if you do commit, but
it's $100. But just to kind of put this into like, Sam personal training is $150 an hour. If you want Sam to personally train your son, or, if you're an athlete, or you're just, somebody who wants personal training, he's $150 an hour. Everything that he knows is in this app, with the video tutorials, the system itself. So $100 a year, in my mind, is a steal. It's an absolute steal, for the level of training that one will receive from this app.
Well, I think it's good. You actually a lot of times you try things out, they give you like a 7-day trial or a 14-day trial. So I think in 30 days, you can really understand it if you commit to it. Not everyone commits to things, so that it might be a little bit harder, but you got 30 days, so you can play around with it and see. But I think no matter what people do with exercising, they just have to commit. Whatever you do, you commit to it, and that's how you succeed. If you don't commit to it and you wake up in the morning, what am I going to do today? But with this app, I know personally, when I'm on a plan, some type of schedule, that's when I thrive. When I'm not, I wake up what am I going to do today? I don't know. I'm not really feeling it today,
Yeah, I'm the same way. I was kind of like, before, I never really had a plan. I would go to the gym 4 days a week, and I would follow this. Oh, I'm going to do biceps today. What did I do? Oh, I did shoulders yesterday. Okay, I'm going to do legs. There was always some cardio involved. And, I thought I was pretty strong. I thought I was in good shape until my first day training at StrengthFarm. And then I realized
you were humbled.
I was humbled. And then I realized that what I was doing was absolute BS. The training, the multidisciplinary training that the SFX system has, is by far the best training I've ever done. And that's and I believe in it, right? Like you were saying, I've been doing it for the last 4 years. And this is why I partnered with Sam and invested over 6 figures in building this app, because I believe in it. I believe in the training. And then I think it's really important that young men and women that are training or want to train, that are trying to play a professional sport or just want to be healthy, that they're using proper training, right? They're not buying into the idea of heavy lifting, or buying into the idea of, the type of training. And I won't say what that is, but the stuff that's out there that isn't really that healthy for you, right? Rather be your joints or just your muscles in general. So I think if people want to train smart and healthy and have something that is personalized towards their physical abilities, this is an app that they could use.
Yeah,
100%.
No, I think. Yeah, no, I mean, and again, I like that you are a person that did the program for a long time, and it wasn't something you like. This was just some customer that came to you that said, "Hey, let's make this cool app." And I know you've done apps for, I think, was it Les Mills? You did an app for that company too.
Yeah,
and that's a huge international. Right. I think they're based out of New Zealand, I want to say.
Yeah, correct. So
I did one of their classes today at 24 Hour Fitness. Body flows, like yoga and like meditation and stuff. So from that, you probably learned a lot about, what works and what to do and developing that particular app before you even did this app.
I think the thing that I learned in app design is it's hard. It's not simple, especially when you get to engineering. It gets even more difficult. But this is where the whole idea of keeping it simple comes into play. And it's easy to say, oh, we're going to design something simple. But when it gets down to it, it's not simple to make it simple. It is time consuming. It is grueling. It's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of, you know, architecture. And sometimes you got to roll back because maybe what you thought was simple and good ended up not being that. So, and in some cases, you know, God forbid, you got to erase code and start from scratch. But if at the end of the day, the app works better for the end user and they're happy about it, that's what it's all about. The last thing you want is somebody getting frustrated or lost while they're in an app. Like, how does this, and asking themselves, what is this? How does this work? They should never have to ask themselves, how does this work? Right.
Oh yeah. I mean, and that makes perfect sense. Now, I had a couple other questions for you. One thing I kind of wanted to ask you, what would you tell yourself, let's say you're starting Harlow right now, some 2 years ago, right? No, you started Harlow a number of years ago. What would you do differently this time if you were to start it again?
I mean, I could probably say there's a lot of things looking back. But to be honest, I don't think I would change anything. I've made a lot of mistakes. I lost thousands of dollars in those mistakes.
Sure.
All of my success, 110%, all of my success was because I failed first, because I made the mistake and I learned from that mistake. And we had a saying that when we made a mistake, me, Cody, and McKean would say, never again. So what are we doing to make sure that that never happens again? Rather, that was drafting up some piece of legal in our proposals, or just, growing our proposals, or learning to qualify the type of people that we work with. Mm-hmm. But there's not much that I would change, to be honest. I might have stayed in Alaska a little longer and try to save more money, because that first year was a hustle, and the second year was too. To be honest, every year has been a hustle. I mean, even when you're big and money's coming in, you have projects and you're well known, it's still a hustle. I mean, this is the life of an agency owner.
Sure.
We're project based, so there's not a day where I can just kick back in my chair and be like, oh, we're good. No, every day I get up, I put my hat on, I grab my rifle, I kick down the door, I go out and I hunt. And sure. Some days, I'm bringing in some big game. Other days it's just a rabbit, but we live to fight another day and we get to eat. So I'm going into my 19th year.
Wow.
Yeah. And I started SFX Athletes because it's an amazing product, the system that he created. And, if we can get it out to more people and reach more people and win their minds and their hearts and improve, help them improve physically and mentally, then it's a win, and I'm happy about that.
I think one observation I have is that you have Harlow and now this SF Athletes. I think where the success for you has lied is that you've also found good people to work with, and you kind of ease into it and just instead of just saying, okay, let's just all get together and create this company or create this app. You knew people, and that's one of the hardest things with starting a business, and things I've dealt with many times over, is find the right people who have the same vision as you, and that's very difficult. And when you have that foundation of a good team, you feel more confident, because when you're by yourself, it's just so much harder. So I think that is something that I've seen you succeed at in these, at least these two examples for sure.
Yeah. I think, well, this is a whole discussion, but co-founders, right? So when you're seeking a co-founder and you want somebody to join you, there has to be some alignment, right? Because this is a marriage. I mean, essentially, right? Yep. And to be honest, there was other business ventures I went into with people that they asked me to be a co-founder, and they ended up not being that good because they just didn't have the work ethic, right? And that's what it gets down to: work ethic, showing up, doing the work, getting it done, not making excuses to why it isn't done, but just doing it. And Sam is like, he is that 100%.
Yeah. He drives you, you drive each other.
Oh, I don't think I have to drive him at all. He definitely drives me though. Like he's a source of inspiration. His hard work, his work ethic, he does, and he doesn't make excuses. And I think that's one thing that I learned to grow and hone even more training with him was like, just stop making excuses. There's always an excuse why you can't work out for an hour, or, oh, I'm too tired, or this or that, or, there's family, there's this, that. In my opinion, those are the times when you need to train most. Like, there's a death in the family, train. You're not feeling good, train. Maybe you it's just been a slow day and you want to be lethargic, lay on the couch, train.
It's all, the mental health, like, for me and deal with my mental health. Like if when I exercise, I feel better. Like today, I didn't feel like exercising this morning, but then I went and I was like, oh, wow, I feel really good. Huh?
Yeah.
It's like weird.
Well, this, and you always will.
Yeah.
And you always will. I mean, I've never not felt good after an hour of exercise.
Yeah.
Never. Right. The endorphins I feel great. Even the times where I'm like, I'm so tired and I don't want to do it, I'll still work out. And I might not give it 100% just because I'm tired, but I'm going through the motions. I'm doing it. My heart rate's pumping. My blood is pumping. And then when it's done, I'm like, oh, I feel great. This is why
something simple. Like what I tell myself, I'm like, okay, I'm not motivated, so I'm going to go for 10 walk. Like, how hard is that? And then when I get going, then it turns into maybe a half an hour or longer because I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I like this.
Yeah. Next thing you know, you've done 10 miles.
Well, yeah, man, I'm out all the way out in Beaverton or something. I don't know. So,
yeah.
But I think it kind of comes down to that. And that's kind of the, what I like about the idea of, talking to you in this was that, you started several different businesses, and then this newest one is something about that helps out mental and physical health. So I thought it was a very timely thing for us to discuss. And I just want to thank you for your time today. It's been awesome. We could talk forever.
Oh yeah. I mean, I feel like we just scratched the surface.
Oh yeah.
I think we need another session after this.
Oh yeah. We're going to we'll do some more, like you said, co-founders, like that's the whole thing we could talk about someday. There's so many different topics. But I wanted to see if there's anything else you want to kind of give a shout out for, or any mentions, before we kind of close out the show.
Yeah. I think, listen, if you're looking to find a training program to help you get in shape, you can download SFX Athletes on the Apple Store. It's on Google Play. The name is going to be changing soon. You can still Google it as SFX Athletes and it will pull up. But soon it will just be SFX StrengthFarm Training. And you can find us at sfxstrengthfarmtraining.com. And you can learn a little bit more about Sam and about myself. But I highly recommend it. Give it a shot.
Yeah, 30 days. It's free for 30 days. Why wouldn't you try it?
It's free. Yeah, give it a try. You're going to be okay. I've had people tell me, "Oh, I need to train before I do that." I'm like, "No, you don't. You don't need to train before you do this. You can start training now using this app."
Yeah, because they don't want to do bad. Yeah. I've had that mentality before. I'm not going to lie, but
that just gets back to that whole excuses thing. Just do it. Yeah, right.
Well, thanks again, Danny. I appreciate it. I just want to thank our listeners. You can find out more about me on CarrieFinsand.com or at KFinsand, and more about the show. We'll have show notes in here to list where you have direct access links to his app and everything that Danny was talking about. And then I just want to close with, remember, you're not alone in life or business. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Thank you, Carrie.
Thanks.
All right, bye.